Welcome to Rooted and Unwavering, a podcast and radio show which features leaders from all walks of life in conversations about courageous connectedness. How do we stay connected to our best selves, especially when we are challenged? What becomes possible when we truly stay committed to our own and others' greatness, also when we don't feel it? Join host Hylke Faber, transformational coach, facilitator, and award-winning author of Taming Your Crocodiles, and his guests as they explore leadership greatness in today's episode of Rooted and Unwavering.
And hello, welcome to Rooted and Unwavering, episode 47, where we help leaders connect more deeply to their innate potential. I'm your host, Hylke Faber, and I'm here today with a wonderful guest, Lisa Haisha. Lisa, how are you today?
Hi, I'm wonderful. Thank you.
It's wonderful to have you. If you're just tuning in, welcome to Rooted and Unwavering. I'll say a little bit more about this podcast series as we do in the beginning of every Rooted and Unwavering podcast. And then we go more deeply into what we can learn from Lisa about connectedness. So I invite you just to stop and pause for a moment, wherever you are, wherever you're listening, and take a moment and ask yourself, how connected am I in this moment to what's truly important to me? Not what I've been taught, not what the expectations that I may have on myself, which may be important to you, but maybe something a little deeper, like connect to something that's truly important to you. And when we do that, we may often find ourselves going into a space of maybe stillness, some contemplation, and looking at our lives from a bigger vantage point and saying, what am I here for? And then you might ask, well, I'm listening to a leadership podcast. What does it have to do with leadership? So as a leader, what I find is we're in this continuous tension, you could say, between wanting to do our best and wanting to make sure we are serving whatever is going on around us and staying true to ourselves. And how do we find a way to integrate those two things? Rooted and Unwavering is about helping us to basically remind ourselves, who do I want to be? How do I want to show up in this moment? And in all the years of coaching, that simple question, who do I want to be and how do I want to show up, is the coaching question that I ask myself as my number one client all the time. So how do I want to show up today? So today we are here with Lisa Haisha. Lisa is one of those people, if I sat next to you on a plane, I know I would probably speak to you for the next 6 hours. So I'm happy we have at least an hour today to do so. Lisa comes with us with tremendous experience, decades of coaching, and I could say life discovery. She's a person that enjoys defying labels and breaking boundaries wherever she goes. She's been working with executives, orphans, terrorists. She's even been kidnapped and many other things that we may hear about today. She's a mother, life coach, author, transformational speaker, and she has done speaking engagements and been in 60 countries across the world, from boardrooms to yurts to colleges to prisons. She is on a mission to unearth superpowers within others, guiding them to live with purpose and authenticity. With me, she says, expect the unexpected as I empower individuals to embrace their uniqueness and unleash their full potential. Being with Lisa, as I sense we will discover today more of, is a discovery and a journey in and of itself. So I'm very grateful to be here with you today, Lisa. And my first question in these conversations is always, and therefore also today, tell us about something you've learned about connectedness in your life and leadership. Tell us about that.
I have traveled all over the world, over 60 countries, and I learned that we are all family. Everyone you meet is family. Eventually, I started traveling looking for my soul family. When I got off a plane, either in the airport or I get a hotel for a night, then the next day, If I'm at a cafe, I'll just look to see who I'm connected to. And it always happens like this. Usually at the airport or at a cafe or something, I meet somebody or a group of people, a family. Once it was a Kuwaiti family. Another time it was a grandmother. Another time it was a couple of people, friends, hairstylists. And then I say, can I stay with you? I'm here for a few days. I want to live here. I want to, really understand this culture. And I usually stay with people. And it is the best experience because I've learned we're all so similar. People think we're so divided by culture and religion and politics, but really, if you sit down with someone eye to eye and break bread with them, you have so much more in common than you think. We're all human beings first.
Beautiful. So tell us about how you got into that attitude. It's for most people maybe somewhat an unusual attitude to go somewhere, strike up a conversation with people in a cafe, and then ask to stay with them. That's quite unusual. So tell us a little bit about your life and how you have learned, how you got connected to that zest for connecting with yourself and with others. Tell us more about that.
I was born under a Baghdad roof, is what I call it, in San Diego. And my dad taught us to be afraid of everyone. Everyone's your enemy, every man out there. So we had to go to school, come home. We could go out one night a week, be home by 10 or 11. Sometimes we got when we were older. And it was always be scared, be scared, be scared. So I was sick of that one time because I came home and the street lights were on. And he got so mad at me when I was 16 and said, I'm sending you to an orphanage. I'm like, what are you talking about? I was baking a cake for our friend, a few houses, a friend. I was baking a cake a few houses down for a mutual friend of ours at school. And it was like 6, 7 or something like that, daylight savings. And he said, I won't tolerate any of this. It's a dangerous world and blah, blah, blah. So I went to my room and I was crying, going, what is an orphanage? And all of that. And then I thought, what if he's the bad guy? And he's not. I love my dad. He was just very strict and he had 5 teenagers at the same time. So
Right.
He had to be really strict. So I started sneaking out my window or when I went out hitchhiking, and I'd only get in the car with people who were a Hells Angels type. And if it was someone normal who came over, I wouldn't get in the car. I'd say, oh no, I changed my mind. No, thank you. Then when somebody that was really terrifying looking, I'd get in their car and then I would interview them. I'd say, why do you look the way you do? Why do you have this beaten up car? Why do you have tattoos? Why, are you scraggly looking? Why don't you have money? Why? Are you going to hurt me? My dad said that people like you, is that true? They're like,
Yes.
who are you? And, they all were my angels. I did it probably, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 times. And they all answered my questions. Where do you want to go? I said, nowhere. I just wanted to meet you and try to understand who I'm supposed to be afraid of and why. And I think it started there. Then when I moved to LA at 22, I met extraordinary men. I had my first 2 boyfriends were like really special. One was French and he was moved here at 15 years old. And I met him at 22 and I was 26. And he said he's traveled all over the world, like 80 countries by then. And he was already composing for Spielberg and he already made $1 million. And I'm like, you came here with $50 and now you're like, how did you do it? And he said, oh, you have to travel. I'm like, I've never traveled. And he's like, oh, let's go. And I'm like, where? He's like, where do you want to go? I'm like, okay, let's go to Belize. And so we just booked a ticket. I go, what do you mean you just book? You have to plan, you have to save up, you have to get the right luggage. He's like, no, you just go. And we like left in a couple of days and we just winged everything, didn't know anything, then met people. And we did this then a number of times. And then I met somebody else who I was working for, a restaurant, Gorky's Cafe and Russian Brewery, this huge, the biggest restaurant in LA at the time, the first microbrewery. They had music and art all the time and changing. It was a thriving place with celebrities and intellectuals and just a beautiful place to hang out. And I was working there and he said, come with me to help get new mugs. And so I was supposed to go to Germany, Finland, and Nepal. and Russia, of course. And we went to those places, and every place we went, he just met people. Like, we were in a paddle boat in Nepal. He's like, "Oh, where do you live?" He goes, "I live there." He goes, let's go to your house." And he'd go there. Then he'd start fixing things and, "Oh, let me get you this. Let me get you that." I'm like, we don't even know these people. Then we're walking down an alley through restaurants. And then he says, "Let's just walk in." And we walk in. He's a great cook. He has a restaurant. And he's like, "Let me cook for you tonight." And he bought stuff and started cooking in their kitchen and gave special food to the guests. And I'm like, what? So I think I've had so many of those experiences during like 22 to 26, 27. And I thought, this is the way. Look at how wonderful these people. You're not a stranger. A stranger is a friend you just have not met yet, or a family member you have just not met. And I didn't know that.
Right. So thank you for sharing that. And I can imagine somebody listening thinking, that sounds great. Now, how do I take what Lisa's saying and apply that to how I lead, how I work on teams? How do I apply that in my daily life? Because people might think I am not in this current situation that I am in a position where I have to make some very different choices to pack up and go to Belize or whatever it is, right? So what have you learned from these experiences? Because I know you're a coach and you work also with executives in boardrooms. What have you learned from these experiences that you then share with others or evoke in others?
You come into a meeting as a team, not with your ego. I teach something called imposters that live on the stage of your brain. And imposters come from a situation that happened to you when you were a child, and it developed like this alter personality, and it could either sabotage you or be there for you, depending on if it's healthy or unhealthy. So, and then I have them name it, frame it, and then tame it. So when you're in a meeting and you're like, "Oh, that guy stole my idea," or "I look bad," or "My boss just put me down and, slammed my creativity. Now I don't know what to do," or you get your feelings hurt or you're insulted. You look at that and go, "Where's that coming from?" And then you look at that part of your ego that is broken or fractured. And I have people name it. When did an incident happen to you, and who did it to you? Like, "Oh, you're dumb in 7th grade because you got an F in, math," whatever it is. So your dad, Bob, called you dumb. So now this person's saying, "That's a stupid idea." You're going back to that situation of your dad in 7th grade, because it then builds up and builds up if you haven't healed it. So now you're like, "Rawr, I'm not dumb." And then you start causing problems. So it's about taming that part of you, and you have to work on that, just like exercise. So then you would frame it, "Oh, that's Bob." And then you do a positive affirmation about it of who you really are. Like, "I am really smart and I have creative ideas." And then you do exercises. I have, so many exercises of mirror work, looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, "I love you," to yourself, doing 10 deep breaths. If you do 10 deep breaths every morning, 4, hold for 8, then release for 4 seconds. And do that 10 times. Look in the mirror and say, "I love you," and say your name 10 times until you really feel it looking into your soul. Those 2 exercises alone will help transform you. And gratitude, say 3 gratitudes in the morning, because it is a part of you that is broken that causes problems. If someone insults you or someone cheats you, even, you have to look at it and go, why did I attract that into my life? Why would I allow someone to cheat me? Why would I allow someone to hurt my feelings or to reject me? Because that's all you. It's your vibration. Everything is vibration. So if you're vibrating, "I'm a person that you could walk all over. I'm a person that shouldn't be respected," then people are going to show up and go, "Oh, okay, I'll accept that. That's who you are." And you're treated like that. Once you flip that and do this work, such simple work, but such challenging work, because it's like, "Oh, that's so stupid. That doesn't work. Oh my God, give me a break. I'm not going to sit there and do that." But I swear I've done this for over 20 years, and I have seen miracles happen. So many lives change just by starting that tweak, because once they do that, they start noticing other things. Things start to bubble forward. It's just like writing a screenplay or a book. When you're writing, then the rewrite, then you go, oh, I just thought this was great. Now I'm seeing all these changes. Then you make those and read it. You're like, oh, change this. It gets smaller and smaller and smaller as you're fine tuning. And that's what you have to do with yourself, your instrument, especially your ego.
Love this. So that when you feel something's happening at work that you find challenging, what you're helping people to do is to go inside and look, and let me make sure I got this right. You first name it. You name the thing that is the old image, the old person.
Before you're at work. Yeah, these are exercises to prevent. Yeah.
Yes, and then you frame it. You frame it as I got this right. It's like you're able to say, well, that was my 7-year-old person that thought that I was dumb, or that was, or always had to be perfect, or whatever that person was. And then I tame it by making maybe a positive affirmation or doing breathing or any other plethora of exercises. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the frame it part is writing the declaration or affirmation. And I actually then say, who do I want to be?
Yeah.
Who do I want to step into their energy source, their vibration? Who do I really admire? And I literally frame it. Do you see that on the wall?
Yeah.
I have Oprah, I have Simone de Beauvoir, I have Gandhi, I have Herman Hesse, Anais Nin. So I literally frame, so I look at them and say, thank you. That's who I'm going to be today. And I have their books right here, and I'll read a passage from their book, embody that energy, and say, I want this aspect from Simone, this one from Gandhi, this part of Oprah, I like this part. And you start creating yourself. So when you get into situations like that, you're not like, I'm so insulted and I'm leaving and blah, blah, blah. You're this and name call. You just go, oh, that's interesting. Thank you for sharing. Maybe you're right. Then they're like, or you say, oh, would you please repeat that? Say that again. Because then when they say it again, they feel a little uncomfortable. Because the first time it's easy. Second time, they're like, oh, wait, they're not reacting the way I thought. I can't push their buttons if it's someone competing with you. Oh, say that again. Oh, thank you for sharing. I'll look into that. Or maybe you're right. And they're like, it ends. They can't say anything.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. So how do you connect to those people that you admire? So you've got Simone de Beauvoir, you got Gandhi, you got Oprah, some other people, Herman Hesse on your wall. How do you select those? How does one select the people that you actually want to be like?
It's pretty easy because it's who you admire. Like when I read Herman Hesse's books, I just went, oh my God. I was like 26, 27. Someone I was seeing at the time was reading all his books. So I started reading all his books and I thought, this man is so brilliant. So I loved his writing style and I loved how his mind thought, and I loved how he took his life experiences and molded them into some rich material that's serving generations.
Yes,
and I thought, okay, I like that. When I grow up, I'm going to be a writer and write books that are going to shift people. And maybe even in, 2070, 2080, someone's going to still be reading my books that I wrote back in 2020 or 2010. That's going to shift. Even one person's going to read it and say, oh my God, did you see this book? Like what I do right now. I gave my daughter his book and Siddhartha. And so it's like, this book will change your life. And I love that. And I love how Oprah could connect, which is what this is about, with almost anyone, if not anyone. She just has a way of putting someone in a chair and you are with her. That's what made her so special, because then people open up because they said, I trust her. I like her. She's got my back. And even if she creates tough questions, they still go, oh, she's coming from her heart. So I'll answer that compared to someone else. So each one of them has something. Simone de Beauvoir really opened the doors to the woman intellectual. She opened the door to, feminism and, who are women? Let's share our gifts. We're such rich entities that are being overlooked. So I love that. And now having a daughter, let's enrich you. This is who you are. And I read passages of that. Gandhi I love because I created a foundation, Whispers from Children's Hearts, after traveling for 5 years to 15 orphanages and interviewing children of what makes you tick, how does it feel being here? Your parents were killed, or you were abandoned, or something happened. What is your story? I'm here to listen because I care. Someone cares about you. I'm looking at you in your eye and I care. And I'm going to memorialize your words because other people care. Because I always say people don't care. They're bombing us. No, I care. People care. That's politics. I'm going to look at you, share your story. And they were so excited to do that. And that I got to that point because of Gandhi. Gandhi was with the people all the time. So that was my Gandhi. So I wrote these, who do I want to be? Let me start creating that. Then you start creating these pieces in you that start shifting. Then when you're around people, sometimes they say something about you is so different, Because
Beautiful. So you do this work, and I'm imagining as we're listening to you, think about who do we admire, and like how could I take some of that energy, be in that energy, and then move from that place. And as you're saying, that then opens the door to all kinds of different adventures and ways of being, and working with conflict, and working with colleagues, and working what's going on, and informing choices what you do. So it's interesting how you speak very almost casually about, oh yeah, and then I went to orphanages, and you told me just before the show that you went to Iraq during the wars there, and you talk about that very sort of almost casually. And so what I'm curious about, Lisa, is tell us about going to those orphanages. Where were you in your life when you made that decision to do that? How did you make that decision? And then what did you learn as you were going into it?
I just quit acting. I hated the business side of acting, but I loved the creativity side. But it was several Me Too stuff and just compromising who you are left and right. And again, I was born under a Baghdad roof. So I'm wired a certain way anyway. And if I did anything, my dad always said, you're going to put one foot in my grave, because your behavior and actions affects everybody, all your cousins, everybody. So it's like, oh, that's the family that has that one person who did X. So I was very limited, even if I wanted to or not. I wasn't about to hurt my family, especially my dad. So I quit. And that was all I thought I was going to do. So I was sitting there eating my Doritos, whatever, watching TV, feeling sorry for myself. And Christiane Amanpour comes on and starts sharing the war is getting more intense, in Iraq, and U.S. is going in there, Bush was going in there and all this stuff. And they said now they shut down the airport in Iraq, and there's an 18-hour bus ride from Jordan to Iraq, really to the Al Rashid Hotel where all the journalists stay. And I was watching that, and they said it's very dangerous because they're trying to kidnap Americans or rich tourists on this bus and for ransom. And I just sat there listening, and I went, I want to be an actor. Isn't being like a journalist on the stage of war, like what Christiane does, that's kind of acting. You're in the middle of it, but it's real life. And I said, that's what I can do. I could be a war reporter. And then I said, how do I do that? Because it sounded so exciting what she was doing. She's in the war zone. She's here and there. And then I thought, I'm going to get on that bus and get kidnapped. Then I am going to be with them, and I'm going to have a story, and I'm going to change them from terrorist to a humanitarian while I'm captured. I'm going to teach them what I know and ask them, why do they do that? And they could connect to themselves, who is their true self, and that is not who they are, that it's not killing other people. I was just going to give them a whole lesson while, I'm a hostage. And then we're going to come out of it and they were going to apologize and we were going to co-write this book, then get on CNN on Christiane Amanpour's show and talk about the experience.
So this is what you're seeing while you're sitting on the couch eating the Doritos, watching Christiane Amanpour. Okay, yes. And then what happened?
Because I was just so bored going, I can't do anything else. I'm an actor, or just let me commit suicide. I don't want to do anything else.
So you were an actor at the time? You were an actor at the time? Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, and I just nothing interests me. And I just felt dead inside. I'm like, I don't want to do anything else. I'm going to just kill myself. I was just really not feeling, I didn't think I was really going to do that, but that's the energy I had. I just didn't want to go out. So I told my dad, I want to go to Iraq. Will you take me there? I want to see where you grew up, your school. I want to understand you better. You've been so intense with us, and I want to understand your psychology. I want to understand Saddam. I want to understand everything. He said, are you crazy? It's a war right now. We can't go to Iraq right now. I said, I want to understand my roots. This is really a huge part of me. He said, no, you can't go. And I'm certainly not going. I said, well, I'm going. And he said, you can't. And I said, well, I am. So
how old were you?
I was 27.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'm going to just go. And I booked a ticket. And then I got connected to this group that goes there every 2 years, expatriates. And I said, when are you guys going? So I booked it when they were going. So I'd have people from all these different countries, Iraqi born, but that were going there to help bring peace to the country. So they were all staying at the Al Rashid Hotel. And then all the dignitaries are come there because, they have these big meetings to help create peace. So I said, I'm going to go and I'm going to be part of that. So I got on the bus. I was the only female until I saw someone else come on. There was one other girl who came, and I just went like, what are you doing here? And this was in Jordan, because we landed in Jordan and then Jordan to Iraq. And then I said, you're staying in Jordan, right? She goes, no, I'm going to Iraq. I go, what do you mean you're going to Iraq? She's like, yeah, I'm going there. I said, why? She goes, to kill myself. I go, what are you talking about? She's like, I can't be a good Iraqi girl. I can't do this. I just don't fit in, and I can't hurt myself because it'll embarrass the whole family. So I'm going to go over there to get killed on this bus. So she saw the same thing. I went, oh my God, I'm going there to get kidnapped. Why don't you join me? We'll get kidnapped together. We'll co-write this book and do this. And then we bonded. And then we got on the bus together. So she helped me going, oh, do you have that? And then I spilled it. And she goes, oh, you can't spill those. If someone finds out, we could get robbed. We start doing this little skit thing. And, oh, salam alaikum. Oh, salam alaikum. Alaikum salam. Next one. We got 5 chances. So number 2, let's do a little more. And nobody heard us. Everyone was great. So then we got to the Al Rashid Hotel, and when every day I would go to the concierge desk, can I meet with Saddam Hussein? I need to meet with Saddam Hussein. They'd say, you're crazy, American. Like, I want to meet with Saddam, because everyone was in there in the lobby, some of his top people. So then we got to be taken around. Then long story short, I got to meet Tariq Aziz, and I got to meet Taha Ramadan, the vice president of Iraq. I went to the last big party that they have, and I beelined to his table, which is a big no-no, especially for females. And I sat down when I saw someone get up, and I said, I need to talk to you. Why is Saddam doing this? Does Saddam have weapons of mass destruction? Is this happening? And can I meet with Uday and Qusay, Saddam's boys? Oh, no. I said, no, I heard they were horrible. I heard they torture people. I heard, I listed everything. No, they're good boys, good universities. Then why can't I meet with them? Oh, we need your father's permission. I said, I'm older than 18. They said, it doesn't matter how old you are. So it went on and on. So I never got to meet Saddam, but I spent a month there. I went to sheep herders' homes and walked into their homes, and all of them are huge, Saddam supporters. All they have is like worry beads and a little prayer rug and a TV with Saddam TV 24/7. And there's sheeps and, goats and chickens. And they said, we hate you. We hate Americans, but no one leaves our house without a gift. And they gave me worry beads. So everybody, even if they weren't into you, were so kind. And I just felt, this complicity with everyone. And I walked to which area should I avoid? So we went to that area to find conflict and have something happen So I have a story. You can't have a story if nothing happens. Nothing happened. So we left and ended up going to Jordan for 3 days before coming home. Then I get kidnapped by Bedouins. I went on a tour to Petra, and then someone said, "Oh, I'm a tour guide. I'll take you there." And then took us up a mountain this way. And they said, "That's the fake Petra. This is the real Petra." And then wouldn't let us come home, kept us there for 3 days, but was very nice. But we cooked meals underground. And he's like, "Why are Americans like this? Why are you traveling alone? Why aren't you married? Why don't you have kids? Why da 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 da?" And I'm doing the same thing to him. And there was this guy who had 5 wives and all their kids, and they came up one day. It was just fascinating. All I had was a little pareo and flip-flops and a little tank top because I wasn't prepared. They go, "That's where you go to the bathroom. That's what you do to clean your teeth. That's what you..." And they said, "You need to experience this. We're sick of Americans coming here and not knowing who we are." So,
Oh, wow.
some amazing stories. I have so many of those that I feel when you trust your gut, or when you're not afraid, because I wasn't afraid at all. Then again, when I was talking about in the office with energy or vibration, then they matched that. But if I was a scared person, something might have happened.
Thank you for this. We're going to take a break in a moment. After the break, I want to learn a little bit more from you about how do you choose how you show up, especially when the stakes are high. Like, how do you choose how you show up when the stakes are high? When, because I heard you saying, like, I want to be kidnapped. So it's like, okay, so the stakes are kind of low because I want to be kidnapped. This is kind of almost a game. Tell us after the break more about how do you choose, how do you show up, especially when the stakes are high, because that's a situation I think many leaders are in a lot of the time. Like, I need to make sure we hit this goal. I make sure that our team gets these opportunities. I want to make sure that whatever that is. We're going to take a short break. You're listening to Rooted and Unwavering. Lovely guest today is Lisa Haisha. She's been delighting us and me with a sense of adventure and sense of confidence and courage to explore our sameness. See you after the break.
You are listening to Rooted and Unwavering, presented by Growth Leaders Network, the leadership, team, and culture development company. If you would like to learn more about working on connectedness for yourself, your team, or organization, please contact Growth Leaders Network on LinkedIn. And now, back to the show.
So welcome back. Welcome back to Rooted and Unwavering. We've been learning from Lisa about sameness and learning that people actually underneath it all are very much more like us than they're not. And what happens when we open ourselves in a way that invites the adventure, invites the conversation, invites the connection. Lisa, tell us a bit more about how do you choose and work, how you show up, especially when the stakes are high. Tell us about that.
Again, when you do that, I guess at that time I didn't have some of the tools I have today. So maybe I'll talk about today. If the stakes are high, you have to know who you are, what your values are, and what you're willing to give up. So you have to be strong in your sense of self and know who you're going to meet and be able to match their energy and their vibration so they could see eye to eye with you. And if you are matching, there's a complicity there and there's a safeness that they will feel without knowing why. Then you'll be treated differently. I've seen this so many times.
Can you give an example of that?
Yes, I worked in Chowchilla Women's Prison. It was for lifers. And I was doing this 4-day workshop with a group of people. And my last person on the last day was the bully of the prison. She's been in there for over 20 years and she's never getting out. and everyone tried to work with her, and she was just mean and angry and insulting and everything. So when I got her, she just sat there, what do you got? What do you think you've got for me? There's nothing you could teach me. And I said, why are you here? And she said, because you get points, you get a reward if you show up and continue with therapy. So she's doing it just for a pack of cigarettes or whatever. And I said, okay. And I just looked at her instead of doing the questions that they gave us, work on it this way and that way. And I just looked at her, did eye gazing, just stared and took a breath, looking at her. And then I inched my chair all the way up to hers until our legs were like this. And I'm like this with her, looking in her eyes. And I said, do you know what your problem is? And then she's like, and then I started talking to her at that level that you have the devil inside you. And this is why. And she's like, oh my God, you can't talk to me like that. I said, yes, I can. And then she, and I talked to her at that level of who she was. I got angry and I got ugly with her, the way she is with people. And then all of a sudden she started breaking down. And at the end of our conversation, she was crying and said, Lisa, you blazed my soul. And I said, you just gave me the name of my business, Soul Blazing. And I don't want to get into all the details because it's extensive, but it was these moments of connection when she tried to bully and I matched it or upped her. And she's never had that before, because you're trained as a therapist or a coach to just listen and keep calm. And I just, you want to amp up? I'm all in. And I got this close to her and she's just like, whoa, she's not afraid of me at all. And she goes, I hate your stupid briefcase. When we were done, I'm like, there's nothing in it. I just did this to look smart and important with you. Then she laughed and then we broke the ice even more. And then I told her, this is what you do. Instead of being the bully, be the angel. And I gave her affirmations, kind of name it, frame it, claim it. Who made you this way? Why did you do the crimes you did? It was always self-protection. All three were husbands that she killed who were meth addicts trying to kill her, bad environment. So like attracts like, so she kept bringing in the same person. I said, you could change who you are. Here's what happened to you, your first incident. Now let's name it, claim it. Now do affirmations. Who do you want to be? Who do you want to be like? Who do you admire? And now let's create your steps that you're going to do every day. Within 6 months, on a payphone, she raised $75,000 for battered women. She became the angel of that prison. And the people started calling me, what did you do to her? What did you do to her? She keeps looking at her paper and she's like, and I'm like, oh, it's soul blazing. They're like, what is that? I'm like, ask Bella. So I started going, what is soul blazing? And it's igniting the fire within you to do something good. It's like, who do you want to be? Ignite it. And once you know who you want to be and what your mission is, you could ignite it. If you don't know, you're just floundering and you're afraid of everybody. Like I was in Prague going someplace and I jumped on the train and then the train started moving. And as I was walking down the aisle, then I kind of fell into an old woman's lap. Like she was like 85 or something, because I was supposed to sit across from her and I fell into her lap. And most people would go, oh my God, and freak out. And I just looked at her and I hugged her, a big hug. And I said, Grandma, oh my God, Grandma. And I fell out of my, got out of my chair and sat across from her. And I just smiled at her. And then she just started like lit up. Like I was her daughter, like this never happened. She unlocks her necklace, unclaps it and puts it in my hand and holds my hand. And we do this till the next stop that she gets off on. And then she gets off and I look at her through the window and we look at each other. We'll never see each other again. Don't know each other's name. Now I have her necklace and we are connected. That is opening up instead of, oh, I'm sorry. And, or
right.
Why did you fall on me? I'm irritated. It's just, we're both in the flow. And again, how you show up is how other people show up.
I'm really struck by this story of you with Bella was her name, or Bella is her name in the prison, where you said what we're learned as coaches is to be empathetic and open, understanding and calm. And instead, what you chose to do with her was to match her or to match the thing within her. Now, what I'm curious about is, how do you do that without hurting somebody? Or maybe that's even the wrong framing. I'm curious about that, because I'm thinking this. It makes total sense in a way, right? The grandmother thing is probably a little easier practice to do than the Bella practice that you just shared with us, but like, can you tell us a little bit about how you might do that in a work situation that's maybe a little less extreme, and what you do in a situation like that where, part of you might think, look, I want to meet them, but I don't want to hurt them. How do you do that?
Well, you could do something that throws them off, like when they're yelling. This is silly, but I was on a movie set and I was a creative producer, and this new producer came on and fired the director and fired the other producer and the person who created the whole project, put it together. They ran out of money, needed money, and this guy was crazy. He was, gone. He was somebody that got hit by a car and call Larry Parker and I'll get you $2 million. He called Larry Parker and got $2 million and came in. It was a low budget film. And everyone was afraid of him because he was so mean and he'll just fire you. And then he said, we're having a meeting and all this stuff. Then he's like, you're an asshole because of this and that. And you did this and blah, 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 blah. Then Lisa, and then he just stood up. But what do you have to say? And I just stood up and I said, hi, my name is Lisa Haisha and I'm an alcoholic. And it all started when I was working on this film project years ago. And this guy came in and I told the story of what was happening and everything that happened prior to him coming in and him coming in. Everyone started cracking up. Then he started laughing, goes, everyone's fired but you, I'm keeping you. And it was like, I didn't fall into, okay, this is what happened. And my part was, or this person is bad. I'll agree with you. I'll go on your side and put down my colleagues. It was just, it's so absurd what's happening. So I went to the absurd. I didn't plan it. It just came out of me. Because when you practice, it just, when you're in the moment, things come to you when you do this all the time. And, he still gave me my credit and I finished it. I could tame him and show him how to work with people because I did that. So you could change it. Or if someone's yelling at you, you could say, excuse me, can I bring you into the other room? And then you say, you don't talk to me like that in front of other people. And, you could have a conversation. There's so many different ways depending on who you are and who they are. It's the chemistry. So once you start training yourself, you'll know the right direction to go in.
It sounds to me like the underlying principle here, Lisa, is to stay really grounded in yourself and not alter yourself or your core just because somebody else is doing some shenanigans.
Yes.
So basically saying, like my husband, who is African American, sometimes teaches me like, no, we're not doing that. No, we're not doing that. Or just like, as you're saying, calling things for what they are. Like Lisa or Bella, I see, and this is a very strong statement, I see the devil in you. And so what motivated you to say that to her? Because that's a very strong statement to say to somebody.
She was the devil incarnate. She was 6'2", shaved head, bulging biceps with a snake tattooed coiled around her neck, down her arms. Whoever came in, she'd bully them and make them fear her. And everyone was scared. Oh my God. Even my person said, my counselor who brought me there said, you don't have to work with her. I go, no, I want the challenge. Let me take on. And there are guards around. So I had a little security doing that, but still she could have whacked me one right there. They don't care. But Lisa sees something in me that nobody else sees. I've been having therapy for over 20 years, but she gets me, something in her when I matched her and I didn't fear her. Then she could trust me. I'm with her. I'm not the other person who's maybe was brought up completely differently from her. She grew up, in a poor neighborhood, didn't have money, and her father this and her mom that. So maybe I'm just this rich white kid that had everything. And all of a sudden we became one. Oh, we're the same. We're the same. And that's where the connection comes in. I even did that in my marriage, when we would have conflicts, rah, rah, you did this. No, you did that. then so we came up with names, again, soul blazing, of who are your imposters, and we found 5 or 6 in each of us. It's kind of like multiple personalities.
Yeah.
So when he's like, rawr, I'm like, I didn't invite you. I invited, this other person. I invited, I had a nickname for each character where, like Sugar D was the nice guy. I invited Sugar D, not Monster D, So
Yeah. Yeah.
so then he's like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. And he could correct himself. He's like, okay, let me take a breath. And then he's like, okay, this is what I want to do, blah, 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 blah. And then if we had a stronger situation, I'm like, I don't know how to tell him about this or how to approach him. Then each of us had a character of Dr. Haisha, and, he was Dr. of him. So I text him and say, I need an appointment with, Dr. Aronson. He'd say like, okay, when? And I said, sooner the better. And then I would call him. Then that's confidential, client, therapist, privacy. So I'd call him and say, I'm married. This is what my husband's like. And I have this issue. This happened. And I know he's going to freak out. How do I address it where he doesn't feel unsafe, where he doesn't feel, how do I talk to him about that so he understands my perspective? Because this is a big deal. Then he'd say, oh, and then he'd give me advice, and then it puts him in the power seat, gives me advice of how to deal with him. And then later, we talk it through once we're done. Then I call him like half hour later. Hey, I want to see you. I want to talk to you about something. Can we carve out an hour, maybe just go have dinner or something? I have something important to share. And then he'd say, oh, sure. When, because he doesn't know what's going on. We're getting along. So it's like, and then when we have our meeting, he's like, okay, cool. And I'm like, great. If I didn't do that, we would have fought, maybe not talked for a couple of days, maybe this, drama. And that we found to be so much fun. And to this day, we've been doing it for like 12, 13 years. We have not crossed the line of, remember when we did that? Remember how we do that? We never talk about it because it's private. We don't even know the other person did it. And he's done it to me many times. Anytime he goes, oh, I need to talk to you about parenting, a difference of parenting. He wants this, I want that. So he calls Dr. Haisha. Listen, I need to have this conversation. We disagree on this. How do I get her to see my side? Then I say, well, her side is really actually the right side. If you want to do but then we talk about it. Then we come to a conclusion because I'm not the wife being, you can't tell me how to parent. I know best.
Right.
I'm a therapist helping him. I'm on his team. And then resolve. No, so much of our issues just were no issues anymore.
So basically, as I understand this, what you do is you take yourself out of your current positions and you design some other positions you can have, some other roles you can have, and relate to each other from that role. Like it's switching chairs. Imagine sitting in a chair like, this is the husband and this is the wife chair. Okay, now let's go not sit in those chairs. Let's sit in the therapist chair and the client chair, and just do like that. I think that's a visual we can do in a work setting. I can imagine doing this as you're having an argument with each other. Yes. Okay, now let's take. I'm thinking inspired by you. Let's take 2 different chairs. Let's talk. Let's have our 2 mentors talk to each other about what they would advise us about, how to advise us who are in this conflict. So yes. that could be one, or whatever there. What I'm getting from this also, Lisa, is working with the energy directly, not cowering or becoming afraid of it. It's like, oh no, this is what's here with Lisa. This is what's here. This is how I see you do. This is how I see you do. Is this who you want to be? Is what I ask you, what I'm sort of learning, how I would translate what you did with Bella. Does that resonate?
Yes, exactly right.
Yeah. So matching that. So yeah, I can imagine this plane ride if we were going from LA to New York for 6 hours, doing this like for 6 hours, and we're almost at the hour point, which means we're going to the last bit of this conversation. What do you want to say to people who may be who are listening to this and may be thinking, yeah, but Lisa can afford to be so free and so herself and match this energy and say as it is because she's not part of a corporate hierarchy. She doesn't have to worry about getting fired tomorrow, or her team thinking that she's off, like basically off, like she loses pole position. What would you say to a person who is in that place of, I would like to, but I am a little worried about the consequences?
I've worked with hundreds of people, and a lot of them were exactly who you're describing, and it's worked beautifully for them. Because when you act in this way, when you actually it's really bringing in your higher self. And when you do this work, especially, not just, oh, I'm going to do it tomorrow without doing this work. You really have to go, who are my imposters? What characters were created in me based on the wounds I've had? And go do that deep work. And I have a book out called Soul Blazing that you could go get and learn some, in a website that I'm sure you're going to promote. But all these tools, they really help. So once you get out of your ego and you start living, breathing, thinking, and feeling like who you want to be like, and you practice being that person, nothing really matters. You're not going to get fired if you confront someone, because your energy isn't going to be one that is ugly, that someone's going to take offense by. Your energy is going to match whoever it is you are, where they're going to go, oh, I'm the idiot. They're going to think it whether they say it or not. You'll come together because you're matching them. And when you match someone, that's when you build a bond. If you go out on a first date, if you're both, oh, I want red wine. Oh, me too. That's a connection. Ding, ding, ding. Oh, I love, bike riding on the, me too. Ding, ding, ding. I like meat. I'm a vegetarian. Oh, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't like this person so much. They kill animals. Oh, I don't like this person. They're like one of those woo-woo people, automatically. Yeah. You're building the connection when you practice this. So it will work. You won't get fired. I worked with top people in the film business. I worked with a lot of actors. I worked on sets with actors as the life coach for the actors that were going through, drama at this time in their life while they still had to perform, and lots of acting out. But how you do it is what matters. If you do make a mistake, how you apologize. It's just being humble, not letting your ego go, not needing to be right, but wanting to be happy. And it's a big difference.
Highly recommend this book, Soul Blazing. If you haven't read it, highly recommend this book, Soul Blazing. Just to get into the practices, check out Lisa Haisha's website as well about Soul Blazing. Look for that. As I'm thinking about what you said today, we've had so many episodes working with different people in Rooted and Unwavering, all inspiring us in different ways. And what's very different here, what you're teaching us, Lisa, what's very different here is to match the energy, to be unafraid of the energy and to match it. Now, I'm also hearing there's humility in that, which is not just go out, rah, 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 I think you are an idiot, or I think you're, no. What I'm hearing you say is, become aware of the diminutive personalities that you have created in yourself, imposters, that break your flow with what's true, but break the flow with the other. And then ask yourself, is this who I want to be? And then make an affirmation of who you want to be, and then show up as that person, but don't show up as the imposter. So that as you're thinking about or saying that, it strikes me that that's big work. That's big work, because it's so easy to get into and to stay into the imposter personality while thinking you're actually soul blazing. And soul blazing requires you to blaze, to blaze. Why did you choose? I love the word blaze. Maybe that we end there. Say more about, what is the word blazing? Why did you choose that word?
Because of Bella. She said, Lisa, you blazed my soul. And I went, you just gave me my work. I'm a soul blazer. I'm not a life coach.
And what did that mean to you when she said blazing to you?
Because she felt she's had therapy for 25 years, like daily in prison and the jails and this and that. She's been in the system forever. She said not one person got to her. She's still the same. If anything, got worse. And something that I said to her by coming up to her close to her eyes. And I said a lot of things to her that I'm not sharing here. I said a lot of things, just boom, boom, this is your problem, bomb, bomb, bomb. And she was like, because it was the truth. And I saw her and still was sitting there accepting her and loving her, going, I love you. I'm here with you. You are not your mistakes. You are not your actions of what happened. You could change right now and become a completely different person. And when I mirrored her and got in her face, she thought, oh, I'm like her. We're not separate. We're the same. But if I didn't mirror the anger and the ugliness, I would have just been another therapist to her.
If I
Amazing,
didn't
really going deep inside your heart and soul, who am I and who can I be? And that's what hit her. I don't have to be angry forever. I don't have to bully. I'll be safe if I don't bully. People won't hurt me because everyone hurts me. So I'm going to hurt them before they hurt me and keep pushing everyone away, make them fear me so nobody will hurt me like the husbands did and my parents and, on and on and on.
Go ahead.
I hit her core.
You hit her core. And in a way, I'm hearing you help her become aware of her imposter.
Yeah.
So she can make a different choice.
Yes.
As well. I do see still another minute on this. I just have to ask this because part of me is like, yeah, but I'm not here to rescue or fix people. People need to get to their own conclusion. So how do you work with that? Or maybe that's my imposter. I don't know.
You don't have to fix people. And that's a great thing you just said to end this, because you're right. People have to fix themselves. You could give them the tools or, in the dark, give them a flashlight. This is the road you should take, or just make it an option. Because I said, you're here for life. You're never getting out. So get used to this. This is your world. And it's huge. I live in Sherman Oaks. It's like Sherman Oaks there. It's like a whole city. I never knew that before. I said, this is where you live. So just get used to it. These are your neighbors. Enjoy, step into it. Because the more you fight, you're never going to be happy. You're going to die the same person you were that got you in here. At least make it more fun for you, and she could hear that.
I see you extending a blazing invitation. Yes. Not like a cuddly invitation, but a blazing invitation. Like, I see you. I see you.
And you matter.
And you matter.
Someone sees you. If one person sees you, you could shift your whole life.
If one person sees you, you can shift your own life. What a treasure to sit with you. I hope that I can be in a train with you sometime. Maybe you don't fall on my lap or something else will happen. I love what you said today. So many learnings and so many nuggets. Few core takeaways I have. One is be aware of your own imposters and don't stay there. Go to who do you want to be and make it a deliberate practice to embody that, however you do that. And it sounds like to me from Lisa, do it daily, do it all the time. This is not an autopilot situation. Like make it a practice. When you meet difficult energies, difficult situations that are so-called difficult, because it may be your imposters that are calling it difficult, meet it directly. And what I'm getting from you, Lisa, is trust that you have it within you as your higher self to meet it directly, whether it means like embracing the grandmother in the train on the way to Prague or saying to Bella, I see the devil in you, or anything else, or you don't treat me like this, and I love and accept you at the same time. Yes. Being the blazing invitation. Lisa, final word is to you before I close. Anything else you want to say?
Just thank you for having me on. You're a treasure, and I enjoyed you. I enjoyed this experience very much. And thank you for being a blessing in the world.
Igualmente. Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you all for listening. Everyone listening and everybody not listening is a blessing in this world, all 8 billion plus of us. Doesn't matter who you vote for in November 5 or what. If you didn't vote, that's fine too. It is basically about choosing who we want to be. Make your own choices. Make your own choices. We have been listening to Lisa Haisha, who is a soul blazing being and coach and mother and speaker and writer and train passenger, and whatever way you meet her, you'll find that out. And I think her invitation is to be soul blazers. Read her book, Soul Blazing, visit her website. And if you like this kind of conversation, learning about staying rooted and becoming more rooted in your own seat, in your own two shoes, subscribe to this podcast, Rooted and Wavering, where we have these conversations very regularly. This was episode 47 of Rooted and Wavering. Thank you so much for listening. This is where we help leaders connect more deeply to their innate potential. I'm your host, Hylke Faber, and see you next time.
Thank you for joining us in today's episode of Rooted and Unwavering, leadership conversations about courageous connectedness, presented by the leadership development company, Growth Leaders Network. To learn more, subscribe to this podcast, connect with Growth Leaders Network and Hylke Faber on LinkedIn, or read Hylke's award-winning book, Taming Your Crocodiles. Now take a moment and appreciate something that is great about you. Celebrate the gift that you are and enjoy connecting more deeply to your best self today. See you next time on Rooted and Unwavering.